Good evening, I'm Dick Brennan.
And I'm Christine Johnson. We begin with that breaking news today, a plane crash in Canada.
A Delta Airlines jet flipped upside down while landing at Toronto's Pearson Airport. More than a dozen people injured. The plane took off from the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport around 11:30 Central Time and landed at about 2:45 in Toronto. 80 people were on board.
Here's a live picture right now of the plane still at the airport on the tarmac. It is sitting upside down on the runway. You can see there is snow on the ground. The weather conditions, of course, will be something investigators will be looking into. We have team coverage. Let's start with Alice Gaynor and the details just coming in to our newsroom. Alice, what do we know so far?
I mean, these images are unbelievable, right? So here's what we know, Christine. Toronto Pearson Airport says all passengers and crew are accounted for, but there are 15 injuries. One child and 2 adults are critically injured. The rest are minor to moderate injuries. That's according to Peel Regional Paramedic Services. Here in these images, you can see people evacuating that flipped over plane. The tail and wings sheared off. The Federal Aviation Administration says the plane crashed while landing. Emergency crews can be seen on the ground. Delta says Endeavour Flight 4819 originated out of Minneapolis, carrying 80 people, 76 passengers, and 4 crew members. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be the lead agency looking into this, but since the plane originated from the United States, the NTSB will be a part of it.
They will work hand in hand together to determine what happened here, and most importantly, come up with recommendations to keep something like this from happening again.
Now, you mentioned the weather before. This is a shot yesterday. We know that they were dealing with a lot of snow. You could see crews working to clear it all. Again, the investigation just beginning. Christine, Dick?
So many questions unanswered. Alice, thank you.
Thank you, Alice. And of course, officials will be looking into exactly what happened and keeping a close eye on the weather conditions in particular.
Yeah, Lonnie Quinn joins us now. Lonnie, you saw the snow that had piled up on that runway. You got to wonder how safe that is. What was it like at the time of the crash?
Okay, at the time of the crash, here are the conditions at the airport in Toronto. The temperature was 17, winds blowing strong, 17 made to feel like 4 below zero with the wind chill. But the takeaway from this element right here should be that planes actually fly better in cold air versus warm air. It's a denser air mass, gives them better performance. So that's not a factor. Then you look down to here, the wind. I want to come back to that one because down to visibility, 5 to 6 miles of visibility. That's not a problem either. Blowing snow. There was no falling snow at the time, but as Alice just showed us, boy, they picked up a big pile of snow yesterday. So it was blowing across the runway, but it wasn't falling from the sky. Here's the issue. All right, the winds were out of the west. Key is the direction of the winds. Out of the west at 32 miles per hour with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. I'm going to give you just sort of a rough drawing, if you will, of the runway configuration in Toronto. So here we go. All right, just like you see here. All right, the wind's blowing due west. So it doesn't make a difference which runway this plane was cleared on. It doesn't make a difference. They're dealing with a crosswind component, which supplies instability to the aircraft. Now, if it's directly perpendicular, that runway is closed down. You're not landing there. This is sort of coming across it at a tough angle, right? I don't know what the crosswind component on this particular aircraft is, but you always look at what the crosswinds are doing on a landing. And no doubt if you've flown a lot, you felt that coming in before when the winds are blowing. This time, enough wind out there to cause big problems. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen over there.
All right, Lonnie, thank you for that. Appreciate your input.
Yeah, the incident is raising serious questions about aviation safety. It's just the latest incident in the last few weeks.
Yeah, let's bring in aviation attorney Robert Clifford. And Robert, thanks again for making time with us here. It was just about 3 weeks ago that we were chatting with you regarding another plane crash that happened in Washington, D.C., focusing now on the one here in Canada. From what you've been able to tell from the pictures, what you've been able to hear about the weather conditions, what stands out most to you right now?
To me, the most remarkable thing is the fact that no one has perished. They're accounting for all the people. When I first heard about this crash, it reminded me of July 19, 1989, when the DC-10 crashed and cartwheeled in Sioux City, Iowa. 112 people died, 188 survived. But the ones that perished, they perished not so much because of physical injury, but the smoke inhalation. So note that there wasn't fire here, but totally suppressed, totally under control. And when people left that aircraft, they were called walkaways. Well, ultimately, we know that those people suffered greatly from the traumatic experience that they've gone through today.
Pretty extraordinary. We have 3 in critical condition, about 15 overall injured. But when you see the plane upside down, you have to wonder, how those people get evacuated without getting even more hurt. They're upside down, they're buckled in. It must have been an amazing job by that flight crew.
Well, the flight crew did a heck of a job, and they need to be applauded for what they did. Remember, too, that the size of that cabin, the fuselage, they don't. Once they could pull those buckles loose, they don't have a big drop. That's a big factor in this case. And the notion that those particular seats, I was asked about that earlier, 16G seats. I don't think that has a lot to do here. That's how much of the G forces you can absorb and those seats can take. But realistically, the drop to the what would be the roof of the fuselage was not that great, and that allowed people. And plus, their fellow passengers help one another, and they become a real community very quickly. And you'll see that now in their comments.
Absolutely. Alice mentioned that Canadian officials will be taking over this investigation. However, since the flight originated in the U.S., the NTSB will likely be involved. How does that joint investigation work, and does it make it more complicated?
It's standard practice, and the NTSB will be the wing person, if you will, to the Canadians. They are well trained to coordinate with one another. The resources that the NTSB has are world-renowned. It's very common, like in the Boeing 737 Ethiopian case that we're about to go to trial on. The NTSB was very involved, instrumental there, helping the country of Ethiopia. The same thing will happen here, and it'll be a plus to the investigation. We have an expertise in this country that is unparalleled.
Aviation attorney Robert Clifford, thank you so much for your expertise.
And of course, we'll have continuing coverage of this breaking news story right here on CBS News New York, and also ahead on the CBS Evening News at 6:30.